44. Be moderate in your choice of words. Always speak with prudence and moderation. Don't use big words. Don't commit yourself rashly to a course of action, for there is a danger that you will find it extremely difficult to keep your word. A man swears that he will never have anything to do with a certain person, or that he will never behave like another, whose actions he condemns. And yet, before long, we see him doing exactly what he condemned so vehemently. Why is this? Because there are entities in the invisible world who, seeing that this man is so sure of himself, decide to find out just how strong he really is by putting him to the test and tempting him. And he very soon comes. This is why so many people do just the opposite of what they had solemnly declared or promised. In some countries, people are in the habit of touching wood when they say certain things, as though to ward off an evil spell. This may seem superstitious, but it is significant. It shows that people sometimes realize subconsciously that it is risky to assert something with too much confidence. 45. Every promise is a bond. When you make a promise, you must be sure to keep it. A lot of people make beautiful speeches and promise all kinds of marvelous things because it doesn't cost them anything to do so. Of course, it is much easier to say something than to do it, and some people think that once they have promised something, they can forget about it. Why should they keep their word? Well, let me tell you that initiatic science teaches that a promise is like a signature, a commitment, a contract. Your words are recorded on the etheric plane, and a spoken promise binds you just as surely as a written one. Nothing and nobody in the world can release you from it except those to whom you made it. If they are noble and understanding, they may release you, but if they refuse, you will have to go through with it. You will say, I will ask God to release me from my promise, but even the Lord won't do so, because he cannot go against the laws that he himself has decreed. It is up to you, before making a promise, to be sure that you will be able to keep it. You must never say, I might as well promise. It can't hold me to anything. On the contrary, on the physical plane, if you have not committed yourself in writing, there may be no proof that would allow a court of law to condemn you, but on the subtle plane, your words still bear witness against you. The proof is not a piece of paper, it is a talking picture. Yes, you and your words have been recorded. 46. The magic of words. Learn to speak gently and lovingly, not only to human beings, but also to animals, flowers, birds, trees, and the whole of nature, for this is a divine habit. He who knows how to utter words that inspire and vivify possesses a magic wand in his mouth, and his words will never be spoken in vain, for at least one of the four elements is always there, ready and waiting to clothe his words in matter. The materialization may actually occur a long way from he who produced the seed, but you can be sure that it will always occur, just as seeds are blown away by the wind to fall and take root in distant places. Our good words fly from us and produce their magnificent fruits far from our sight. If you have learned to control your thoughts and feelings, if you have managed to attain an inner state of harmony, purity, and light, your words will produce waves that will have a beneficial effect on the whole of nature. 47. A vital contact with nature. Our hands are a means of communication with other human beings, and they can also be a means of communication with nature. This is why when you open your door or window in the morning, you should salute the sky, the sun, the trees, lakes, and stars, the whole of nature. You ask, what is the point of doing that? The point is that this gesture puts you in direct contact with the source of life, for nature responds when we greet her. When you first step out of doors in the morning, or when you pass a lake, a mountain, or a forest, greet them and talk to them. Talk to nature and to the angels of the four elements, the angels of air, earth, water, and fire, and even to the gnomes, water spirits, sylphs, and salamanders, and greet the trees, the rocks, and the wind also. Try it. As soon as you do so, you will feel yourself becoming inwardly more symmetrical and harmonious. Many dark, obscure elements will leave you, simply because you have made up your mind to greet living nature and her creatures. The day you are capable of maintaining a living bond with the whole of nature, you will feel true life flowing into you. 48. Choose what will help your evolution, not what comes easily. Consciously or unconsciously, human beings always tend to cut short certain states of mind and prolong others. If you are unhappy or in pain, you want it to end quickly, and if you are happy, you would like it to go on forever. This is absolutely normal, but unfortunately, this tendency does not always manifest itself at the right moment or in the right direction. When it is a question of working, of making an effort, of reflecting, or of communicating with heaven, you are always in a hurry to finish. But when you are eating and drinking, amusing yourself, or doing something that gives you pleasure, you find that it is all over much too soon. Well, this is not how a truly spiritual person behaves. When a spiritual man recognizes that a sensation which gives him pleasure cannot make him inwardly richer, he will give less time to it, or even put an end to it altogether. When it is a question of working or making a special effort, on the contrary, he will try to go on with it for longer. For he understands that immense treasures are buried deep within every effort, whereas joys and pleasures can so easily dull his faculties, keep him in a state of weakness, and turn him from the truth. Whenever you have to decide whether or not to engage in some activity, therefore, get into the habit of asking yourself, what bearing will this have on my spiritual progress? If you see that it will not be much help in that respect, that is more likely to be a waste of time and energy. Put it aside. Life puts all kinds of temptations in your way, and if you have not acquired sufficient self-control to resist them, you will end by regretting that you have weakened and defiled yourself. You could avoid a great many mistakes if, before embarking on a new adventure, you said to yourself, granted that, if I do thus and so, I shall be satisfying my desires, but what effect will my behavior have on myself and those around me? Someone who never asks himself this will always be surprised by what happens to him, but he should not be surprised. He could easily have known in advance what would happen, for the consequences of our actions are always foreseeable. 49. Obstacles help us to make progress. Stop complaining about the difficulties and obstacles that you meet in life, because it is they that enable you to advance. Why can ships sail on water and planes fly in the air? Because water and air offer resistance. Nothing can advance if there is no matter to offer a certain resistance. The obstacles and difficulties in life play the same role as water and air. They are part of the natural order of things, and it is up to us to learn how to use them in order to make progress. If you have done any rock climbing, you know that it is the asperities and rough edges that afford a foothold and make it possible to climb higher. So why do you want your life to be smooth and without asperities? If it were, you would never reach the peak, and, above all, think how easily you would slide all the way down. Fortunately for you, life is full of bumps and rough places, and it is thanks to them that you are still alive. Yes, this is why you should not ask for a smooth, comfortable life without suffering or sorrows, without enemies, for then you would have nothing to hang on to and help you to climb up, and you would keep sliding down. Those who ask for a life of ease and opulence don't realize that they are asking for their own downfall. 50. Don't run away from effort and responsibility. Those who think that they can avoid their responsibilities and obligations and lead an agreeable, carefree life don't know the severe laws that rule man's destiny. A man finds his family disagreeable, his job too taxing, and the people around him boring, and makes up his mind to abandon them. Another shuns all social responsibility. A woman tires of her husband and looks for someone more entertaining and more alluring. Well, this kind of attitude is highly undesirable. Of course, there is no absolute law against leaving your job, your friends, or even your family, if you have fulfilled all your obligations to them. If you haven't, the law will oblige you to meet all these people that you could not bear and to live with them again. If you want to be sure of not having to meet someone again, pay all your debts to him, and you will be rid of him forever. People don't know this law. They do everything they can to get away from someone they dislike, to cut their ties with parents, wife, or children, without realizing how often the law of karma obliges human beings to live with the same people again in another incarnation. If fate has placed us in certain circumstances, it is because there is a reason. We must learn to be undefeated by the difficulties of the world around us. How can we do this? In the same way as athletes who train every day, or as explorers, mountaineers, or seamen who learn to put up with heat and cold, fatigue and lack of sleep or food, to endure fearful weather conditions and survive great dangers. This is what you have to do. 2. Train yourself to endure, to survive, not so much physically, of course, as psychically and morally. Of course, if at some point you find yourself incapable of putting up with your situation any longer, get away from it for a while, but keep coming back to face up to it again until you are really strong. If you are capable of choosing the difficult path, the Lord will send angels to help you. But if you choose the path of facility, you will be obliged sooner or later to start all over again and assume all the responsibilities that you ran away from. 51. Apologies are not enough. We have to make good our mistakes. When you have done someone a wrong, it is not enough to apologize. You must also make reparation. This is the only way to be free of your debt. To say, "I'm terribly sorry. Do you please forgive me?" is not enough, and divine law will pursue you until you have repaired the damage you have done. You will say, "But what if the person I have injured forgives me?" It is not quite so simple. The law is one thing and the person another. The person may forgive you, but it is not the role of the law to forgive you. It will pursue you until you make full reparation. Of course, when a person forgives an injury, it shows that he is capable of nobility and generosity, and the gesture frees him from the torments and sorrows that bound him to the lowest astral regions. If Jesus told us to forgive our enemies, it was because that is the only way for man to free himself from the coercive effects of his own resentment and bitterness. But forgiveness does not put an end to the matter. It releases the victim of wrongdoing, but it does not release the perpetrator. He will only be released when he has atoned for the wrong he has done. 52. Difficulties help to develop intelligence. For someone who knows how to make use of them, the difficulties of life provide the most favorable conditions for growth. Unfortunately, instead of studying these difficulties and trying to find ways of overcoming them, most people do nothing but grumble and groan about them. This shows that they have never understood why our brains are in the highest part of our bodies. If they understood this, instead of suffering and weeping and spending all their time on the lower level, in the heart and the emotions, they would try to raise to the level of reason, intelligence, and light. When you feel like crying, tell yourself, "Very well, I will let you cry. In fact, here is a handkerchief all ready for you. But wait a minute or two, I have to think." Then you apply your mind to finding a solution, and you may be sure that you will find it. In fact, you will find it much more quickly than if you let yourself be carried away by your emotions. Otherwise, you can give way to tears for hours until you are thoroughly exhausted. After that, you will be calmer, no doubt, but you will be no nearer a solution. On the contrary, your energies will be diminished, and your difficulties will still be as large as life. And the whole thing will begin all over again the next day. Instead of allowing yourself to be dominated by your feelings, therefore, put them to one side and try to reach another region of yourself, the spiritual region, which is pure reason, pure wisdom, and pure light. 20 or 30 times a day, you have the opportunity to practice this, and if you use each occasion to its fullest advantage, many apparently unpleasant circumstances can be made to contribute to your good. Life has an abundant supply of all that is needed for the instruction of human beings. The wise reflect about everything, learn from everything, and use everything for good. Others, those who don't possess the light, take advantage of nothing in fact. When good things do happen to them, not only do they fail to recognize or exploit them, they even manage to turn them against themselves. If you are fully conscious and vigilant, therefore, you will know how to make use of all your trials and difficulties so that they contribute to your evolution.